In Islamic law, takfir or takfir refers to the practice of excommunication, one Muslim declaring another Muslim as kafir. The act which precipitates takfir is termed the mukaffir. An ill-founded takfir accusation is a major haram. Authority for takfir: some Muslims consider takfir to be a prerogative of either the Prophet who does that through divine revelation or the state which represents the collectivity of the Ummah. Conditions: the declaration of takfir may be made if the alleged Muslim declares himself a kafir, but more typically applies to a judgment that an action or statement by the alleged Muslim indicates his knowing abandonment of Islam. Orthodox Islamic law normally requires stringent evidence for such accusations. In many cases an Islamic court or a religious leader, an alim, must pronounce a fatwa of takfir against an individual or group. There are disputes among different schools of religious thought as to what constitutes sufficient justification for declaring takfir. Ash'ari The orthodox Sunni position is that sins generally do not prove that someone is not a Muslim, but denials of fundamental religious principles do. Thus a murderer, for instance, may still be a Muslim, but someone who denies that murder is a sin is a kafir if he is aware that murder is considered a sin in Islam. Majites The Majites argued that anyone who called themselves Muslim should be considered Muslim. Mutazilites The Mutazilites advocated what they saw as a middle way, whereby grave sinners were categorized neither as believers nor as kafirs. Khawarij Some of the early medieval Kharijites concluded that any Muslim who sinned ceased to be a Muslim, while others concluded that only major sin could cause that. Sentence The sentence for apostasy under Sharia is traditionally interpreted as death, but alternately might be amputation or expulsion. History Some Muslims believe that one of the earliest examples of takfir was alleged to have been practiced by the first caliph, Abu Bakr. In response to the refusal of certain Arab tribes to pay the alms tax, he is reported to have said, "By God, I will fight anyone who differentiates between the prayer and the zakat. Revelation has been discontinued, the Sharia has been completed, will the religion be curtailed while I am alive? I will fight these tribes even if they refuse to give a halter. Poor due as a levy on wealth and, by God, I will fight him who differentiates between the prayer and poor due." Skeptics point out that Abu Bakr did not even use the word kafir, that he said these words at the time when people were trying to add new practices or innovations to Islam, and that general statements are statements of fact rather than judgments against individual Muslims. In the wars between the Umayyad Caliphate and the Khawarij, the latter's practice of takfir became the justification for their indiscriminate attacks on civilian Muslims. The more moderate Sunni view of takfir developed partly in response to this conflict. In more recent times, takfir has been used against the Ahmadiyya, who describe themselves as Muslims but who many Muslims and Islamic scholars believe have rejected the belief that Muhammad was the last and final prophet and messenger of Allah, after whom there can be no prophet or messenger. This has sometimes been used to legitimize capital punishment of Ahmadis. In 1974, Pakistan's constitution was amended to declaring Ahmadis to be non-Muslims. In 1984, General Zia-ul-Haq, the then military ruler of Pakistan, issued Ordinance 20, forbidding Ahmadis to call themselves Muslim. As a result, they are not allowed to profess the Islamic creed publicly or call their places of worship mosques, to worship in non-Ahmadi mosques or public prayer rooms, performing the Muslim call to prayer, using the traditional Islamic greeting in public, publicly quoting from the Quran, preaching in public, seeking converts, or producing, publishing, and disseminating their religious materials. Another group in Pakistan, the Zikri of Makran and Balochistan, have also been takfired by the local ulema. The Zikri believe that Syed Muhammad Jaunpuri was the Mahdi of Islam. In 1978 a movement was founded by the ulema to have the Pakistan state declare the Zikris to be non-Muslims, like the Ahmadis. In the case of organizations such as the GIA, it has been used to legitimize attacks on any Muslim who is not actively fighting against their governments. An example of takfir that has featured prominently in Western media is the case of Salman Rushdie, who was forced into hiding after Ayatollah Khomeini issued a fatwa officially declaring him to be a kafir who should be executed for his book The Satanic Verses, which is perceived to contain passages that draw into question the basis of Islam. Some contemporary cases in Egypt are also found. For example, Nasr Abu Zaid was accused of apostasy following his work on Islamic sources, describing the Quran as a historical document. The Constitution of Tunisia has criminalized takfir by placing a ban on fatwas that promote takfir. See also, anathema, kafr, takfiri, heresy. References: Brown, Michael. Contending with Terrorism. Pages 89. IC50. Murder, Manslaughter and Terrorism, All in the Name of Allah 7. Al-Mawrid, Renaissance.com. Abu el-Fadl, Khaled. The Great Theft, Wrestling Islam from the Extremists. Harper's San Francisco. Pages 54-5. Abd al-Wahhab was also fond of citing a precedent in which Abu Bakr reportedly burned so-called hypocrites to death. Most scholars in the Islamic tradition who studied the purported Abu Bakr precedent concluded that the claim that Abu Bakr accused people of hypocrisy who upheld the 5 pillars and fought them is without support or foundation. Report of the Court of Inquiry, stoning to death of Ahmadis in Afghanistan and the Ash-Shahabi unregistered trademark. ThePersecution.org. Retrieved February 2, 2013. The presentation before the Parliament can be seen here. Khan, Navida. Maghzadhanama. Islam International Publications. ISBN 1-85372-386-X. Khan, Navida. Trespasses of the State, Ministering to Theological Dilemmas Through the Copyright Trademark. Sarai Reader 2005, Bear Acts. Pages 178. Heiner Bielefeld, Muslim Voices in the Human Rights Debate, Human Rights Quarterly, 1995 Volume 17 No. 4 pages 587. Talbot, Ian. Pakistan, A Modern History. NY, St. Martin's Press. Pages 252. The Zikris, who form a large proportion of the population of Makran, are the followers of Syed Muhammad who they consider to be a Mahdi. In their drive to implement Shariat law, the ulema founded the Tehrik-e Nabat in Balochistan in 1978. Their intention was to demand that the state should declare the Zikris to be non-Muslims, like the Ahmadis earlier. Suzanne Olson, Apostasy in Egypt, Contemporary Cases of Hisbah, The Muslim World, Volume 98 1, 2008. Al-Haddad, Muhammad. Tunisia's new constitution criminalizes takfir. Al-Monitor. Al-Monitor. Retrieved December 4, 2014. External links. The Amman message between Muslims unanimously agreed upon by 200 of the world's leading Islamic scholars ulema from 50 countries. The clear proofs in refuting the doubts of the people of Takfir and bombing. Extremism in Takfir, the ideology of terrorism and violence in Saudi Arabia, origins, reasons and solution, religious denunciations and Takfir, isn't there enough to go around? Maududi's article on Takfir, Be Careful Who You Call Non-Muslim, Islamic Theology and Takfir article exploring the classical view of Takfir, hermeneutics of Takfir.